Hello everyone, it's Sunday morning. I'm sitting outside my shop. Yeah, that's one thing I could tell you about myself is that I spent years making furniture. I loved making it. Made furniture for customers, individual customers. I've made it for commercial, like display cases. I'd make beautiful display cases based off of antique furniture. I had a friend of mine in Wimberley, Texas, and she specialized in antique Mexican furniture, just gorgeous stuff. So she would let me photograph it and measure it, and then I would go back and duplicate it, change it a little bit, and so yeah, this is my shop back here. Just one little item about my life. My first real job was at a paper mill where they made paper, the International Paper Company. I also spent, I got drafted into the military during the Vietnam War, so I spent 3 years in the Air Force. They let us out early because the war was ending and they had just too many people, I guess, on the payroll. So I was supposed to be there for 4 years, got out in 3. I worked as a inspector at a classified military production company. What else? But mostly I've been self-employed and making furniture and picture frames. I owned a Western art gallery. Yeah, that's something about me. I like Western art. I just love to be outdoors. I like being indoors too. I'm also an author. I've written 4 or 5 books. I've spent some of the most wonderful moments of my life writing. My God, you talk about doing something, absorbing yourself. My first book was about, of course, I owned a bicycle shop at one time. That's something else I did, but my life has been an evolution. Sometimes I tell people that God just grabbed me and drugged me. I've been dragged by the collar, Take this naughty little boy and just drag him by the collar. You are going to take a bath. So I've been grabbed by the collar. Sometimes that dragging was very mystical, like these coincidences. But, there have been many different hands grabbing me, but not in a mean way, never like that. My sister, she was so kind to me. And as I get older, this this whole mindset of being kind has just taken root deep in my soul. Sorry, I think an ant just bit me. I don't know what it is about this year. I've never seen so many ants in my life. I'm in Texas here, but on the farm there in North Carolina, they got these, now there's all kinds of fire ant hills. So they're saying they've never seen so many ants. I think, in today's world, with the threat of nuclear war, I think this world could be blown up and ants and cockroaches would still exist. Anyhow, I have been, it seems like that, like I've been drugged. If I look at my whole life, like I've just been pulled along. Sumati and I were just reading today about the second wedding of Nimai Pandit. Many of you will know who I'm talking about. And pre-wedding ceremony, and in the ceremony, Gora Sundar is is providing gifts for everyone, and at one point he tells he says, give everybody three times, let them come up and get a gift. I guess people would come up and he would place a flower garland around their neck and give them a gift. And he finally said, let everybody come up three times. So I mentioned to Sumati, just imagine the generosity, just generosity and kindness, being kind and generous. Generosity, kindness. Is there a difference? Different words. Generosity, kindness. Very different words, but I don't know if I see the difference. And this is what Krishna disaster relief is embracing. Kindness, generosity, kindness. Not that long ago I was thinking how, yes, I can go back in my life and think about all the so-called wonderful things that I've done, amazing things that I've done, wonderful things. Materially speaking, just off the charts, amazing. But you know something? What I remember the most and what is most dear to my heart is when I've had the opportunity to be kind to somebody. Kindness, This is what I'm trying to embrace and express, and people, when there's a hurricane and their homes are destroyed, and these people happen to be vegetarians. There's a lot of vegetarians. They've their kitchen is gone, they can't get to the store. And Krishna disaster relief is our mission is to provide vegetarian meals to victims of disaster. But this has been a long, long road for me. I wasn't brought up in the church. I never went to church. I never had very, I don't want to say my parents weren't loving, but they didn't talk to me. I guess it was loving to say, "Hey, come back for, do what you want to do," or not even that. Just not even that. Just you eat breakfast and you leave. You don't say, "Hey, Mom, I'm going downtown," or "Hey, Mom, I'm going to go climb Mount Rubidoux in Riverside, California." No, it wasn't even that. That even wasn't. It was just I didn't eat breakfast with my mother and my father. I would eat breakfast, cereal and And in those days, you didn't take a bottle of water with you. Bottled water wasn't even invented. And California can get kind of hot. But I discovered, certain gas stations, they'd sell Coca-Cola or soda, and they would, a lot of times they'd have a little stainless steel drinking fountain. You push the button and the water would come out, and the water would be cold because it was hooked in somehow, part of the refrigerated box that they kept their sodas in. And sometimes the water was cold, sometimes it wasn't. But just about every house had a garden hose. I'd get thirsty. I'd go over to some house and look around, and there'd be an outdoor faucet, usually with a hose, and that's how I would drink water, out of some rubber hose. But there were very powerful undercurrents pulling me, taking me out to sea, taking me to God. My sister. My sister ended up, she started out with, she was the first person that told me about these yogis in India who could, they were so advanced that somehow mentally they could stop their heart, and then a doctor with a stethoscope, would pronounce the yogi dead, and then the yogi could somehow start his heart back up. And and she's telling me, she's begging me to go to the Giant Rock Flying Saucer Convention with her. She's like 17 years old, and I just was not poured out of that mold. Wasn't poured out of that mold. Just wasn't me. I like sports. I was not a bad kid. I didn't, sneak around smoking cigarettes. I just liked adventure. I would go and climb Mount Rubidoux, or disappear into the Santa Ana River bottom by myself, or I did a lot of stuff by myself. I'd take a football and put it on a little rubber stand and try to kick field goals. I would do that for hours by myself out at the school playground. My sister was older than me, so we didn't have that much contact. But again, this generosity and kindness, my God, she was. This is how she treated me. But she was always like the black sheep of the family. Now I look back, she was the angel of the family. Really was a beautiful angel. Thank you, Ava. Thank you. You saved me. But when I was maybe 12, she said, "Oh, I want you to go meet this person I just met." You know, he lived near Riverside in San Bernardino. You know, I really wasn't interested, but you know, I went. Me and my little brother, we went, and it was just a knock on the door. The door opens. He comes to the door. I can see that there's quite a few people in there, adults talking, and I shake his hand, and you know, 3 years later, after my mother had passed away in England, my sister comes to visit us. At that time, we were in upstate New York. Me and my little brother are being raised by my dad's mom and dad. You know, he was still in the Air Force. So that's how I ended up in the Adirondacks. And my sister, she would come visit. I mean, go way out of her way. And, you know, the first time she visited, she came with Charles Berner, this man that I had met in San Bernardino, you know, several years earlier. And that, you know, that first, I think it was during that first meeting that, you know, Ava was always on a crusade. You know, the first crusade was Elvis Presley. My God, she was an Elvis. She was, my dad and Ava would argue. I mean, almost come to blows over Elvis Presley. My dad said that he was never going to be anything, that he was just a flash in the pan, and that was going to be it. And you know, Ava finally, "I'll bet you $50 that you're wrong." And you know, off my sister goes with all her little girlfriends to the Fox Theater in Riverside, California. I wish there was a video of what happened inside that theater. It was Elvis Presley's new movie, and if you weren't a girl, you were not getting in the door. They had a big sign, girls only. But Ava had these, telling me about these yogis in India, and well, when she brought Charles Berner to New York, her new husband, her crusade was to get me and my little brother to take vitamin B3. Not a lot, but you know, this vitamin B3 would make your skin flush. It opens up the capillaries. And vitamin B3 is called niacin. It's called nicotinic acid. That's the original raw form, nicotinic acid. And it opens up your capillaries. Well, a lot of people don't like that flushing experience. So, you know, the chemists, they have modified it to niacinamide. They took out whatever they did. You don't flush. You get all the benefits of vitamin B3 without the flushing. But she wanted us to flush. You know, like, I'm sorry. I don't want to flush, and I don't want to take your vitamin B3, you know. You know, at this time, I'm living in the Adirondacks. This is like a sportsman's paradise. You know, I'm interested in fishing and girls and just normal stuff that normal kids, I say normal, you know, but she started to tell us how, you know, it wasn't that she just wanted us to take it. And there's a story behind this, you know, and the story is that you will flush, but this flushing is the body is going to get rid of all the radiation poison inside your body. You know, like back in the early 50s, America would set off these nuclear bombs, real nuclear bombs out in the desert. And that, so everybody, according to her, had some of this radiation stored inside our bodies, in the bones, and this niacin and the flushing would expel it. Yeah, that. How does that sound? And now she wants me to take one of those little white pills? Nope. So she disappears upstairs. And now Charles starts to tell us some about niacin. He says he actually agreed with my sister, and he told us about 2 experiments. One was, he said, see, Charles had a lot of students. He was my first guru, if you want. Eventually, he became my first guru. Well, he had a lot of students. See, Charles Berner was the number 2 Scientologist in the world. I mean, L. Ron Hubbard created Scientology, and Charles Berner was the second most proficient Scientologist. Charles and L. Ron Hubbard were personal friends, and even on a social level, when my sister would tell me that, you know, many times they would go out to dinner with L. Ron Hubbard, and of course they were both students. Charles was a doctor of Scientology. My sister eventually became a doctor of Scientology, an honor bestowed upon her for some of the things that she came up with, these techniques, working with clay models. I'm not going to get into that, but I mean, my 10-minute video is already 23 minutes. Sorry. I'm going to try to end this in 30 minutes. But Charles was saying so one of his students, they did this experiment. They took like masking tape and put an X on the guy's back, and then asked him to go out and get a good old California sunburn, which he did, and he gets home, you know, red, and they pull off the tape, and now he's got this white X on his back. All right. And then a couple months go by, and Charles gives him, you know, maybe 250 milligrams of nicotinic acid, and he flushes. You know, probably the niacinamide wasn't even invented back then. If you wanted to take niacin, all they had was the real deal. And the vitamin B3 made him flush. But when they looked at his back, because the X had stopped the sun rays from burning him, the X reappeared, proving there was a correlation. There was some correlation between the flushing and the sun. Charles said that the sun is nothing but this gigantic nuclear explosion. The whole sun is a massive nuclear explosion, and it spits out. The sun spits out radiation, nuclear radiation. You know, everybody knows, like, if there's a bomb goes off, a nuclear bomb, well, then you can be affected by this nuclear radiation. People are afraid of that. Well, he said that the sunburn is a very mild nuclear radiation burn. Then he talked about another one of his students who happened to have, he was in the Army when the Army was, our military was exploding these nuclear bombs out in Nevada. And he was with a group of soldiers at a very, very long distance away, but they could see it. And he would happen to be standing behind a picket fence when the bomb went off. And apparently when the bomb goes off, it can spit out these electrons or whatever it is. I'm not a scientist, but they go like faster than the speed of light, and they just go through everything. They went through his body. That didn't kill you. But when he took, so years had gone by, he's a student, and he takes the niacin. He also flushes red, but you can see the picket fence on his body, like the slats on the front of him, where the slats wouldn't let the radiation, these particles, penetrate. So again, a correlation between, I'm just this kid, I'm in my grandpa's living room listening. Okay, it's all right. Sounds I guess it sounds logical. And see, something had happened to my little brother. And Ava and Charles didn't know about this. They hadn't come to see specifically to see my little brother. What happened to my little brother is that he had swallowed some gasoline, siphoning gas out of a car, my uncle's car, siphoning gas. You take a rubber hose and you put it snake it down into the gas tank of the car and suck, and eventually that you can see the gas come up, and you suck it and move the hose real quick down, and it's like a siphon. That's how you can create a siphon, but you spit out the gas. Well, my little brother swallowed the gas, and he was taken to a hospital, and they made him drink this radioactive solution, and they x-rayed him. But my little brother never, when I saw him, because I was gone for the weekend, when I came back, he didn't complain about anything, went to school. And so this had happened prior to Ava and Charles coming, and we weren't discussing this. This was not something we were discussing. We were talking about niacin, and my sister trying to convince me and my little brother to take it. Well, now she comes down the stairs. She's got this little bottle of niacin, and I don't know. She swore, I'm going to only give you 100 milligrams. It's water soluble. It can't hurt you. And all of that is true. I reluctantly, I don't know. Okay, I'll take it. I took it. Larry took it. Now me, I didn't notice anything. I didn't flush red. Nope, nothing. I could have been swallowing an M&M. Zero. However, my little brother, he became very agitated. He had a sweater on. He took that off. He had a red flannel shirt on. He took that off. He had a t-shirt on. He took that off. And we all sat there and looked at my little brother and could not believe what we saw. You could see on his whole front, his skeleton. And he turned around, you could see the skeleton from the back, the backbone, the ribs. It was not like, oh, gee, do you think that could be a rib? No. This was as if Michelangelo had painted it with white paint. It was unbelievable. Remember, he had swallowed this gas, You know, several months earlier, and they had given them this radioactive solution, and they x-rayed them, and by God, you could. So for me, I couldn't believe, when I say that I've been like pulled, this current pulling me toward God. This was one of the undertows. When this happened, it kind of like, you know, it like, whoa, you know, there's a little bit more to life than fishing. Something's, you know, I'm not too bright, but I could tell something is going on here. So so that was one incident. And now it's 31 minutes. I said 30, so I'm going to end this right here. But my next video, I am going to tell you what happened. The next thing that happened is when I'm 18 years old. I'd already graduated from high school, and I got a job working for the International Paper Company. The same paper company, the same place that my dad worked in before World War II broke out, and he joined the military like everybody did. My dad eventually became a pilot. Something happened to me at this paper mill. Something horrible. And I'm going to tell you about that. And how Ava and Charles, at the most perfect moment possible, knocked on the front door and had come to see me. They didn't come to see my little brother because he died. So my next video, I'm going to tell you about my little brother, what happened to him, what happened to me, and what happened to me when Ava and Charles suddenly appeared. You know, they were in England studying Scientology, and they came back to America. And again, my sister is so kind and so generous. So this is what the next video will be about. Thank you for listening.